Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's class. Just another class, and the final sort of presentation we have, actually, class on Pramana, or Valid Cognition. Next week will be, this week coming up, we'll do a review, sort of a live question and answer when I'm back from my work and back in Nelson, BC. So right here, just in the hotel room here in Narita, Japan, just this is quite tired. This is my third trip to Japan. Was it 3 trips to Japan, 2 to Korea, and 1 to Brisbane, Australia in about 3 weeks. So can't wait to get home and relax. I've got some time off after that. So because I'm sort of a day ahead here, it's kind of a bit of a screwy time. I'm just sending out a recording. And just got back from Narita-san Temple, Shingon Tantric Temple here in Narita for their 9 o'clock fire puja to Buddha Dainichi Nyorai and Fudo meal. It's very, very beautiful. There's a lot of people there today because I guess the former Prime Minister of Japan has been assassinated yesterday. Very, very sad story. So I think probably a lot of people were there just for that. So it's beautiful prayer practice. And so I'm just a little bit energized for that. And right after this, I have to just have a bit of a rest and going home to Vancouver. So this class can be a little bit shorter, and I've got a little bit of material to do. I'm just going to make it more of a teaching class to do a quick meditation here, but just I'm sort of confined a little bit with the time. So rather than not do a class and kind of get behind, I figured I could just do a little bit of a shorter class, maybe 45 minutes today or so. And teach, and again, just sort of sum up everything in sort of a special presentation today for the Pramana class. Okay, so let's just get started with the reciting the Heart Sutra here. Essence of Professional Wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Homage to the Professional Wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard at one time, blessed one was dwelling in Rajgriha, a mass vulture's mount, together great assembly of monks and great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the blessed one was absorbed in concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Spirit of Valakshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the profound perfection of wisdom, looking perfectly at the emptiness of inherent existence and also the 5 aggregates. Then to the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Spirit of Valakshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage with the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Spirit of Valakshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence and also the 5 aggregates. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is not other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, this all phenomena merely empty, having no characteristics. They are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there's no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There's no eye, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There's no I element, so forth. There's no mind element, also up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing under beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly in the 3 times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest, complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, the equal and unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tayatam gata paragata parasam gati bodhisoha. Shariputra, bodhisattva, great being, should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from the consecration and said to Spirit of Valakshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good kiddo son, the lineage is like that, since it's like that, just as you have revealed, and that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and Tathagata will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, the Spirit of Valakshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Okay, just take a moment here just to do the 9-point breathing exercise. So again, visualizing a hollow body, 3 channels, 2 side channels, central channel if you wish, otherwise just the hollow body. And again, 3 breaths in through the left, exhaling through the right, getting rid of desirous attachment. 3 breaths in through the right, exhaling through the left, getting rid of anger, reactivity, frustration. And 3 deep breaths and inhalations and exhalations through both nostrils, in and out. And on the final inhalation, just ninth, just hold it for a moment, just put your mind at your belly button. Just feeling that your mind, all the prana or chi, and your breath is all mixed together at the navel chakra before you exhale. Okay, so let's get started here. Okay, so just starting our brief meditation here for today. Let's visualize ourselves seated in a wide open space. Ground like lapis, beautiful clear sky above us like a dome. And we are surrounded by all sentient beings of the 6 realms. So first, those people closest to us. So our mother on our left, father on our right, people we love the most, support behind us, people we like the least or have issues or kind of bad karma with in front of us as objects of healing and compassion and prayers. And then sort of moving concentric circles outwards from there, people from all over the world, different countries, cultures and backgrounds, countless animal beings from little small insects, all the way up to big mammals and birds and so forth. Countless beings in the spirit world, elemental beings, beings in the ethereal and astral planes and so forth. They're all here with us. Celestial beings, gods, demigods, and countless numbers of beings in lower states of rebirth, hell beings and hungry ghost beings. They're all here. And it's just sort of festive. Everybody's happy and ready to meditate together here. Okay, so for today, we're just going to visualize our founder of our tradition, great saint, Tsongkhapa, Losandrapa in the sky. And he's wearing the 3 robes of a monk, yellow pen, his hat. He has his hands, he's in lotus position. His hands are in the turning the wheel of Dharma Mudra, holding 2 white lotuses that blossom around the ears. Left one has the Prajna Paramita text, 100,000 lions, and right one has the flaming sword. He's made out of beautiful energy or light. And seeing that he's the manifestation of 3 Buddhas, Buddha of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, Buddha of wisdom, Manjushri, and Buddha of power, Vajrapani. We're just going to sort of show that now sort of symbolically. On his crown on a white moon disc is the Buddha of wisdom, Manjushri. And he's in golden, has a golden body and young and beautiful. And he's wearing silks and a crown. And he's in lotus position. And right hand's above his head in threatening mudra, holding a flaming sword. Left hand is in 3 jewels mudra with a white lotus with the Prajna Paramita text on it, 100,000 lines. Now, Tsongkhapa's throat on a red lotus is Avalokiteshvara, Buddha of compassion, Chenrezig, beautiful. He's in lotus position with beautiful white colored body, wearing a crown and silks and so forth. He's got a little antelope or deer skin around his neck, kind of almost like a little scarf or a cardigan. And his forearms, first two are holding a multicolored jewel at his heart, and then the other arms have and left a white lotus and right crystal mala, representing all the compassion of the Buddhas. And then his heart on a yellow sun disk is Vajrapani Buddha Power, who's sort of dark blue, black, on fire. He has a crown and wears a little tiger skin loincloth and 5 colored snakes, kind of ornaments like, like a little bracelet or a necklace or so forth, showing his power over negative influences, forces. And he's standing with his right leg slightly bent, sort of in a fierce, ready to go, ready to fight posture, so to speak. And he's holding in the threatening mudra, his right hand up in the air, golden vajra, and his left hand's in the threatening mudra at his heart, and he's holding a lasso, which is to sort of subjugate or tie up bad energy or negative forces. Now, above him in the sky, it's just like a beautiful large sun. Again, is Manjushri, holding a flaming sword above him in lotus position there, the crown on, beautiful golden body. In the sky, like a big sun just above Tsongkhapa, and he's surrounded by like a halo of lapis lazuli light. Really, really beautiful. So an orangey sort of golden color, orangey yellow gold color, and then sort of lapis light coming out of that. Hey, just taking refuge here. I know sentient beings to which you for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I know sentient beings to which enlightenment go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I know sentient beings to which enlightenment go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. This is sort of generating refuge and bodhicitta, making our path a Buddhist path, and in particular a Mahayana Buddhist path. We want to get enlightened. Everything we're doing is dedicating for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So turning 4 measurables of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no one ever be separated from their happiness. May everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. Seven limb practice, making our practice Buddhist, just from our hearts here, prostrating, showing respect, honoring the sacred, here represented by the merit field of Tsongkhapa and Manjushri here, showing our highest potential, our Buddha nature. Having an open heart of generosity and giving by making offerings here. You can visualize that we're sending out beautiful billions of flowers in all directions as an offering. Confession and rejoicing. So again, just sort of confessing, acknowledging, owning up, standing up and being accountable, giving account of yourself, so to speak, just this is who I am, all the bad things I've done and all the good things I've done. Here I am. And I'm confessing or declaring or acknowledging or owning it, sort of on a confessional basis here, just in front of the merit field and even in front of my higher self, who I am and all sentient beings. These are my bad habits, character flaws, and I'm going to work to overcome them. I want to be perfect for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. And again, leaning on the positive quality, just offering up and rejoicing and sharing with all the good virtue and goodness in the world created by all holy beings and human beings and all other sentient beings. And particularly rejoicing even our own virtues and good habits, the good things that we've done, the good things that we do. And just feel that we want to lean a little bit more on doing the good things and less on doing the bad things that hurt ourselves and other people. Now, requesting Buddhists to teach and to stay here. So let's offer up a lion throne to Tsongkhapa. Please, gurus, teachers, Buddhas, always stay with us. Never leave us, always guide us. And offering up an 8-spoke golden Dharma chakra. Always teach us the Dharma. And as our root teachers in this life, our precious teachers, please teach us the Dharma in a way that we can use it as personal, practical advice in our lives. Not sort of empty theory or whatever, or sort of religious pieties or cliches or whatever, but just very, please be in our life. Give us very practical advice and direction to the path, on the path of enlightenment. And finally, dedicating all of this to the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all of our virtues to them. Now offering up the mandala here, purified universe from our heart, West teachings and blessings from Tsongkhapa and Manjushri. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, a great mountain, 4 lands, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land, and offer thus may all beings enjoy such pure lands. Om Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Community Amin. I send forth this jewel mandala to you, precious gurus. Upon having said that, we can just visualize that wonderful golden light is coming down from the hearts of Manjushri and at the heart of Vajrapani, at Tsongkhapa's heart, and blessing us and all sentient beings. It just feels just like we're looking up the sky, and let's say it's cloudy, and then the clouds open up and you get a little sunbeam coming down, lighting up your part of, let's say if you're having a picnic in a park or something, the sun comes up right on you. Same kind of thing here, wonderful golden light coming into us. This is kind of powering this up. Oh yes, please, Tsongkhapa, grant us your blessings. So let's just feel that Manjushri above Tsongkhapa starts sort of growing in light. It's a beautiful ball of energy, that golden light and blue lapis light. And then starts to sort of get small. It's almost like a red giant sun going into, white dwarf, like sort of condensing down. Of course, it's not like it's going out or burning out like a star, but just in the sense that it's just increases in power and then sort of gets really small, condensing like a little diamond. And then it dissolves into Tsongkhapa. And then feel that he starts to get really, really small in the sky. About the size of the sunflower seed. He's made out of pure light or energy, so it comes to the crown of our head. Turns around facing the same direction, very, very slowly, kind of just like a leaf falling here. Enters the crown of our head and descends to our heart. Once he reaches heart, just feel that he melts into our root mind here, our mind of clear light. It's kind of like our soul, our good heart, just at the center of ourselves, our pure divine center. And all the wisdom, power, and compassion of the Buddhas is now sort of directly injected into us. And our mind and those Buddhist minds are one. And we have great, great bliss and peace and totality here, and a sense of spaciousness too. Okay, so we have a meditation here. Teachings, I'm probably going to do about 20 minutes to half an hour, I think, of this, and then the class will be done. So this one last class I wanted to give on Pramana, or Valid Cognition, is actually not from Asian Classics Institute. I guess you might call those classes in the sort of course number 4 of the Asian Classics Institute. But actually, just a summation from a great book from his teacher, famous Geshe and abbot of Chenmo Monastery, Ken Rinpoche, Losang Tarchen, who lived in New Jersey, Howell, New Jersey. We know about him. He's just an absolute legend until he passed into perinirvana. I think it was 2003 or 4, somewhere around there. But he's, if you go on Union of Sutra and Mahayana Press books, he's got a lot of amazing books, and I just love them. They're so great. But one that came out fairly recently, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago or so, was a book called Like a Heart So Dearly Needed for Liberation. So again, Ken Rinpoche, Losang Tarchen, Ceremony Losang Tarchen. And again, the name of the book is Like a Heart So Dearly Needed for Liberation. And this is topics, if you read the back of the book, it's basically a presentation of the importance of having pramana, or valid cognition, or understanding of logic, in terms of the of your path, your Buddhist path. And it is a fabulous book. I haven't read it in years, but I did take notes on it here and there. So I just want to go through a little of the notes, and just I just found it a nice way to end the course, and just very, very inspiring. And so I'd really, really recommend the book. It's really, really beautiful. It's kind of a little bit conservative, old style in its presentation. It feels more and more now almost like from another world, which it was, because he was educated in Tibet, but it's so beautiful. And just like a lot of these books by great lamas, there's a pragmatic quality to them, like and it's of course a therapeutic quality to them. Like you read the book and you get a result. It's like something happens to you. Like you're not the same at the end of having read the book. Some powerful effect has been produced, and it's a therapeutic effect. And I do remember reading it at the end of it, just like, wow, it's kind of like you got struck by lightning, and then you're a different person. And again, it's a real blessing that way. Really, a very, very deep healing. So I'd like to offer this as a way of doing so. In other words, it's sort of his book. We took a little notes here. It's just, why should we study logic? Why, especially as Galupas, should we sort of mess around studying valid cognition and how logic works and stuff? But should we just be meditating or practicing mindfulness or being a nice person or whatever? Why is this so important? And then the central sort of question he's looking at is very good. Is it the same one that Geshe Wangyo, who was probably the first Lama in the United States? He came, I think, in the 1950s or so, at the behest of His Holiness 14th Dalai Lama, to establish the Kalmyk temple in New Jersey. There's two of them. Ken Rinpoche was charge of one, and Geshe Wangyo was the other. And of course, a who's who of amazing scholar practitioners were his students, as you know, people like Jeffrey Hawkins and Klein and John the Cutler, I think a whole bunch of them, and also Alexander Berzin, I think, might have studied with him. So I think Wisdom Publications has a really good podcast where they go over his life, and he has just amazing stories. And he was Kalmyk Mongol who went from Kalmykia, just around the Black Sea, south of the Ukraine, to go study at Drepung Gomeg Monastery in Tibet. And when the Chinese invasion happened, I think he escaped Tibet, which is interesting the other way. I think he went and ended up going through China, through Siberia, and down into Shanghai and getting out that way. I can't remember when he did it, but started going a long way back in India, and then eventually going into New Jersey. So he's got a couple books out, Jewel Staircase, and then a really good one called oh god, I can't remember it now, Path of Liberation or something like that. I can't do a Google search and see. I guess it's slipping my mind right now, but that's a really, really good one. These were sort of introductory Dharma talks that he wanted Westerners to have. And there's one story I want to share with Geshe about Geshe Wangyo. He was an amazing Geshe and great teacher, great real High Lama. But it's in I think it's in Professor Robert Thurman's book, Inner Revolution or something. I can't remember where I read it. But when he was a young man studying at the Gelugpa Monastery in Kalmykia, he got TB. and looks like he was going to die. It was really, really bad TB. And so they had really no money at the monastery and everything. So they really couldn't do anything for him. And so he was in residence there. They kind of, threw him out, or like just sort of, he had to leave the monastery because they didn't want anyone else getting TB from him. And he was basically, a little spot, like a little tent or something outside the monastery, and they kind of left him to die. So his mom walked, I don't know where in Kalmykia, to come and get him and to take care of him. His family, like I think the rest of the family had to run the farm or something like that. And she'd take care of him, but he was in a coma. Like, he was so sick and dying of TB. And what she did is she didn't have anything. So she had a straw that she put down into his lungs and sucked out all the pus and would spit it out. And eventually started clearing his lungs and giving him a chance so he could breathe and his body could fight off TB. So a famous thing that he came out of the coma, and his brother at this point was taking care of him. So he came out of the coma, and this is what he'd always tell his students and people close to him. He'd been in a coma, I don't know for how long. He was so sick and he was dying. Now he came out, he's better, or at least a little bit better. And he is so dehydrated. He's super thirsty. So he sort of gets up and he's just like, oh my God, I need something to drink. And his brother said, you're alive. This is amazing. Yeah. And he said, Mom died. Mom just died of TB. She saved you. She did this. She sucked all the pus out of your lungs. She saved you, but she just died of TB. And Geshe Wangyal said, he was like, who cares? I just need a glass of water. Like, just, thanks very much, whatever. I just need a glass. Get me one right now. And he said he was haunted for the rest of his life. But at the same time, it was one of these teaching moments in the sense of the unbelievable compassion of his mother for him, who saved his life, not only gave him his life, saved his life. The capacity of human beings and sentient beings to be so selfless and compassionate that they would even sacrifice their life to take care of someone else. And the yin and the yang, right? The two sort of energies pulling away from each other, right? And sort of in infinite different directions. His own self-cherishing. He was like, I was so selfish. All I wanted is, I didn't even care to even pause a moment to even reflect on the fact that, number one, my mom's dead and she died taking care of me. And so Geshe Wangyal said, the entire Buddhist path was given to me as a young boy monk, right there in the palm of my hand. In other words, the sort of miseries of self-cherishing and grasping, and how closed and awful it is. And at the same time, just the expansive, warm love and power of compassion of our mothers, and all sentient beings are our mothers. So anyway, I want to share that with you. I mean, that's how great Geshe Wangyal is. That's a great story. So he thought one of the best, it's in, actually, I can't remember which of the two books it's in. It's one of them. He gives one of the great teachings you have in Buddhism, which is basically, how do we know if Buddha Shakyamuni is infallible? How do you know the Buddha is telling the truth? Right? So this is not just that he's infallible. Is he telling the truth? In other words, when I go to a Buddhist temple, is this true? I come off the street, do a Google map, find my little guy, I want to take a Buddhist class, introduction to Buddhism, but deep down the little voice in the back of my head is this real? Does this work? Is this true? Or is this just some stupid religion? Is it bullshit? Doesn't work? All superstitious stuff. And so how do I know? How do I know this is true? How do I know this is the real deal? Basically, I'm being asked to trust the Buddha's words here. All the sutras, being asked to trust these lamas who are quoting the Buddha, following in the Buddha's footsteps. But how do we know Buddha's right? How do we know he actually is a Buddha, that he's awakened, that he's woken up, so to speak, and that it's just not all phony baloney? And again, this is important because should I follow this path? Should I commit myself to this? Should I commit my whole life to this and lifetimes to this? So it's really important of trying to figure out whether this is true. Is this true? And so basically, how do I know it's true? How can I trust the Buddha? Is he right? Is he infallible like they say he is? Is he telling the truth? And if he's telling the truth and this is correct, then I can commit myself to it. If he's not, or he's wrong, he's deluded or crazy, then I don't want to follow this guy. I don't want to commit to this religion. Remember, there's all sorts of bad ideologies and religions or views or beliefs or whatever in the world. There always has been. And again, the worst thing is, you follow one of these, and what happens? I mean, it can lead you into all sorts of problems in this and future lives. But most of all, you make a fool of yourself. You destroy your own integrity and sense of self-worth, your wisdom, your effort, anything else, if you follow a false path. And you sort of wake up to that and you say, oh my God, I wasted 10 years of my life, to my whole life, committing to something that was wrong, or something that was foolish or stupid or really harmful. And I've hurt so many people doing it. But even if I haven't hurt other people, I've hurt myself. I made a fool of myself. And so it's important to get this right, and to be clear about this. And so this isn't it. So this is, with Geshe Wangyal, he was saying, I'm teaching all non-Buddhists, all kind of white people in North America, in New Jersey, New York City. They're not Buddhist. So they're going to ask this question, what is this? Does it work? Is it true? Can I trust you? Can I trust the Buddha? How do I know this is true? How do I know it's going to work? And it's just like we're saying as Buddhist teachers, we'll take my word for it. Well, that's not good enough. All sorts of people say that. Scammers say that, false prophets say that. There's all sorts of very genuine, wonderful people in the world that are wrong about things, that get things wrong, just intentionally, unintentionally, innocently, or whatever. So we have to get really, really clear on this. So this is what this book is about. Technically, it's the same thing. Ken Rinpoche's posing this question. He starts with the quote from the very famous Indian Buddhist saint, Dignaga, who was one of the great Buddhist gurus and teachers to write on Buddhist logic, right? Dignaga, and then his kind of successor student, Dharmakirti. They sort of give a lot of the main material, I guess you could say, just main on logic, and sort of Buddhist views on concept formation, perception, and so forth. And of course, a big thing being, of course, valid cognition. How do we know what's true? How do we know when our mind is correct? How do we know when our mind is incorrect? How do we know what's true and what's false in terms of the path we need to commit to? So the quote from Dignaga's book, which is a book called Sutra Valid Cognition, which is this big one there. Quote, he says, this is the little sort of beginning quote to start the book here. Homage to the Buddha. Homage, I prostrate to the one who became perfectly correct, whose desire to benefit other beings, to the teacher, the Sugata, the protector. So this book is trying to figure out the proof of what we're trying to prove. I guess the truth of what we're trying to see here is contained in this quote. Homage, I prostrate to the one who became perfectly correct, whose desire to benefit other beings, to the teacher, Sugata, the protector. So in other words, how can I know if Buddha's right so I can commit to him and commit to Buddhism? It's in this quote. And Ken Rinpoche's book sort of breaks down that quote, what it means. Starting here, what is the main goal of the Buddhist practitioner? What is the purpose of Buddhism? What is the purpose of your practice as a Buddhist? It is the goal to get enlightened or to become Buddha. Okay. Question you immediately ask is, what is that? What are the qualities? You have to know and understand the goal that you're striving for, that you're committing your life to. This is what logic is for. Its principal purpose is to help you gain clear understanding of this goal. Remember, and again, I always quote that famous British Aristotelian philosopher, Alistair MacIntyre, who said, if you can't convince anyone of your philosophical opinions through reason or logic, you don't have any reason to hold those opinions for yourself. That might seem a little extreme, but I think there's some truth to it. Many times you meet people who are Buddhists, and again, it's not like we have Buddhist policemen or that, these people get kicked out because they're losers, but you might talk to people and then see, or maybe it's the same thing with you. I mean, it's just like, you don't really know much about Buddhism. You actually don't know what a Buddha is. You don't know what enlightenment is. We say that, we do all these prayers and pujas and meditate, but what do these things really mean? What are their definitions? This is what I'm trying to do, but if I don't even know what it is, like how serious is my practice, right? That's like saying, hey, whatever, you meet some guy, oh, I'm hitchhiking, where are you going? To Whistler. Oh, okay, you going skiing? Well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, I know where Whistler is. You don't know Whistler, BC? You don't know. I'm just hitchhiking. Well, what are you going to get there? Well, I don't know. I've never been there. I don't know what's there. And it's like, well, why are you going? Well, I don't know. I'm just going to Whistler. Well, are you going skiing? You have a job there? Are you going hiking? Well, I don't know. It's the same thing. Like, unless you know what you're like, what does it mean to get enlightened? Like, we all use this term, even New Age people get enlightened or be Buddha or a spirit being or whatever. But what are the actual definitions for these terms? What do they actually mean? And again, if I have no idea, if my mom says, "Well, Matthew, I want to, tell me about Buddhism. What does enlightenment mean?" You're like, "Well, I don't actually know." Well, what's Buddha? Oh, he's this guy in India. Yeah, but what makes him so special as a Buddha? Well, I don't know. It's just like, okay, one thing after another. You have no idea what you're talking about. What kind of religion is this? So logic is about getting clear on what all these things are. Okay, so Ken Rinpoche continues. Buddha wasn't infallible to begin with, but he became so. How? How did he become infallible or know the truth? He gathered together good causes, and he changed himself through working very hard over a long period of time, many aeons, if you read the Chakata tales. So then he became an infallible authority through his own work. So he started not having valid cognition or true cognition, or being in error, not having the truth, and then through work, he ended up getting this. Right. So in a similar way, we're going to be the same kind of thing. We're going to start off as someone without knowing what we're talking about, or being in error, having all these illusions. And we will eventually, through our hard work, just like Buddha, if we follow his footsteps, come to have valid cognition and know the truth and become infallible authority on what we've done. How did Buddha do this? Quote, his desire to benefit beings. So over time, over many lifetimes, he was always considering and caring for others. And in and through his compassion, he practiced this for a very long time. So what you see, if you actually see all those old past life stories of Buddha, the Chakata tales, most of them involve stories about him practicing compassion. I don't know them. I mean, I've got friends that sign them up, but yeah, read a few of them. But, it might be him as an animal in a past life that did something really wonderful, compassionate. Like in our Chid practice, you have all the past lives. And one of them is like, when he was the Bodhisattva monkey, it's like this bad guy, it's like some, jerk, whatever, tripped and fall down a well. And then this sweet Bodhisattva monkey felt bad. And the guy's like, help, help. And so the monkey grabbed a vine and kind of lowered it down, and the guy climbed out. And the whole thing is, they say the Bodhisattva monkey's got such a good heart that when he comes out, he didn't even know that kind of like the monkey saved him. He like punts the monkey out of the way, like, get out of here. And then, but even the monkey, he didn't get upset. He's just still got a good heart. He's like, no worries, I just got you out of the well. So the Buddha did so many of these good things, compassionate things, over many, many, many lifetimes, and his compassion increased. And this is what created the cause for him to start gaining this infallibility. So the Buddha is infallible. Okay, so whatever we need, whatever we wish for, he can satisfy us in accordance with our own level of desire, what we want. How does he do this, and why does he do this? He has achieved ultimate compassion, which compels him all the time towards the goal of benefiting all beings in whichever way he can, and whenever necessary, whenever and wherever necessary. So when the time comes in any situation, the Buddha is always urged by his compassion to act, to care for others, and to help them. When and how and why. For him to act depends upon us, our level, our aspiration, and our ability. In other words, he will help us achieve exactly what we wish for when we're ready, or when we need it, or when the karma is right there. This is his infallibility. The Buddha knows all, therefore he knows all sentient beings' problems. Okay. So it's in any words, so it's kind of interesting, based on his great compassion over many lifetimes, he's become this unbelievably wonderful, skillful, sensitive, empathetic being that's just there to serve and to help whenever sentient beings need help. And he also knows, with his symptom of like function of his infallibility, exactly how to help and what they need help with and what they want. So the realization of this particular mind is impossible without wisdom. So what's interesting is the more he's practiced compassion in past lives, at the same time, wisdom is developing. So we always say, like in Tantra, especially in Mahayana practice, like that to get enlightened, you need the two wings. The bird's got two wings. It's got compassion. I should say it's got wisdom, realizing emptiness, and it's got compassion or skill, that you need both. So we see this here with the Buddha, and you can see that his infallibility, his wisdom is active, even with his compassion, sense that he wants to help. He will, whatever people need, he will help them with, something super positive for them to sort of get what they want, to be happy. But he has the skill and the wisdom. He knows exactly how to do that, what they need, where their problems are, how to give that person a hand to sort of self-liberate them, right? So to find perfect happiness and perfect freedom from suffering, we have to achieve nirvana. How? We need infallible instruction. Who is such a qualified person to give us such an instruction? Buddha, because he's an infallible authority, or he is a teacher. So in the end, the true happiness we're all looking for, which is sort of the unchanging, sort of permanent happiness, if I can talk that way, the sense of totality, or being in a state of absolute peace, no more dissatisfaction, no more dukkha, no more dissatisfiedness or incompleteness or destabilized happiness, this kind of thing. That's found in nirvana, right? That's the ultimate teachings that Buddhism is about teaching, is that to find the true happiness that we're all so desperately looking for, the true refuge we're looking for. We're so dissatisfied and so lost and so confused. We have to follow a Buddhist path to get us to a state of nirvana. That's the real happiness and bliss that we're looking for. Okay, that's the final antidote to all of our suffering and dissatisfaction and dukkha, right? Dissatisfaction, birth, old age, suffering, and death, and so on. But who can teach us this? You need someone infallible, like the perfect guide to actually take you to this very, very subtle state that's sort of beyond normal worldly understanding, because it's outside of the world. It's not a worldly mind. It's a mind that has a realization of emptiness. Emptiness, because it's the ultimate nature of things, is invisible. It's not part of this world. It's literally sort of it's right before your very eyes, but it's the non-inherent nature of all phenomena. So it's, in other words, it's the non-relatedness to everything, right? Everything is related. It's, how am I going to say there? It's the relatedness of everything. So it's the absence of things not being that way, the absence of things not being relationships. So you can't see that. That's something you can only get in a yogic direct perceiver or a meditative mind. It's not like I can just pick up my mall and say, see, here's emptiness. It's something you have to get inferentially. So it's a very hard path. So you have to have someone with an infallible understanding and guidance to get you there. So who do we need? We need a proper teacher. Who can do this? Well, by definition, Buddha can do this, just from what we've been talking about here. So how can the Buddha give unerring instruction to achieve this goal? Because he teaches through direct experience and direct perception from what he did to become liberated. He can teach us how to get to nirvana. Why? Because he personally did it himself. Right? So he has the personal experiential knowledge of doing that. So it's not like a tour guide or whatever, someone who's never been in a place. Or I always heard this thing that in the Victorian times, one of the experts on Indian culture and politics and everything is this very famous guy that wrote these kind of like paperback books that everyone read about the India and the Indian sort of British Raj colonial project there. And it's a guy that had never been to India. He just knew stuff by talking to British politicians and Indian people in England, right? So it's the same thing. Like, you don't want to study, I guess that was even with me, because I haven't reached enlightenment, but just saying, I can obviously give a little bit of knowledge here, but who you want is to study with someone, a real Buddha or enlightened being that knows nirvana personally, because they've put themselves there. So that's what we're talking about here. So the Buddha teaches the same path he himself took to achieve it. So as a teacher, he teaches us wisdom of what he himself perceived and experienced. So that's the whole point, is he followed the path. He had the correct, valid perception or pramana of the truth of nirvana, and then that's all he's teaching. So he's not teaching anything else but that. And that's all Buddha ever taught us, it's just Buddhism. He didn't teach politics. He didn't run around teaching economics or geography or astronomy or whatever. All he did is teach the path he himself walked, right? So what is this path that he's teaching, that he realized? Of course, if we're talking about nirvana, we're talking about things. He taught the 4 Arya truths. So Arya are higher beings, or Aryas or higher beings are no longer human or worldly beings, because by definition, they are perceiving something extra-worldly or supernatural, which is nirvana, or the 4 Arya truths, which is they're Arya because Arya people, Arya beings who are no longer normal, who are supernatural, outside of worldly existence, see it directly and know its truth. So for us, like that's what these noble beings, 4 noble truths. For us, we're just taking their word for it, we're practicing, but once we get the realizations they do, we will become an Arya one. We'll say, it's exactly what those guys said it was. Buddha and all those guys, those Indian saints, those men, women, or whatever, they told me this, I did it, it's exactly like they said to the letter. So Arya beings perceive the 4 Arya truths. So the truth of suffering and the truth of origins of suffering, in other words, objects to be abandoned, and the objects to be adopted and practiced, which is, of course, true cessations and true paths. Okay. So we see that the true sufferings, in particular, the sufferings of the lack of happiness and all the sufferings in our body and in our mind, true sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death. These we start to see the more we practice, get the teachings from Buddha, that these come from karma and delusions, and in particular the seeds, karmic seeds, that produce the delusions and suffering experiences in our life. These karmic seeds, of course, are the roots or the fundamental causes of samsara. Arya see that it's precisely these seeds, these karmic seeds and these delusions, contaminated actions that we need to remove. So how do we remove them? This is, you see what the problem is. How do I get rid of the problem? How do I solve the problem? This is the Arya truth of the path. The main path is the wisdom, understanding, realizing all phenomena, right? In particular, in other words, realizing the emptiness of all phenomena. So from these true paths come true cessations. The true paths are the therapy that produces the true cessations, which is the results. In other words, the true paths produce the medicine that solves true sufferings, that extinguishes true sufferings, and therefore produces true happiness. So this is why we call the Buddha teacher. Okay? The Buddha is the model that we're trying to follow. The Buddha's teaching is his life, what he did. So, Gandhi says, be the change you want to be in the world. In other words, my teaching, you remember Gandhi was getting on the train and some British journalist said, what's your teaching? He said, my life's my teaching. Like, look at me, look what I'm doing, look how I'm living my life. That's the teaching. It's not like when I'm saying writing in books, being on TV, watch what I'm doing. So it's the same thing here. The Buddha is Buddha's whole life. Everything he's doing is the model and the example and the study that we're doing. We have to study and practice like he did. We have to live the kind of life that he did. This is Christianity, imitation of Christ. Live like Christ did. Live, in other words, be like Jesus, always forgiving everybody, always loving everybody, blah, blah, blah. So the purpose of every word of Buddha is to liberate us from our own suffering. Okay, how do we liberate? You see where the argument's going from Ken Rinpoche. How do we liberate ourselves from our own suffering? To examine our own mind. So when Buddha, just like we did the Wheel of Life last week, when you look at the Buddha's life, what he did as the reflection or the teaching, the big take home is start with your own mind. Liberate yourself. The liberation you're looking for, the liberation of suffering and finding true happiness in your life that you're looking for so desperately is found within. It's in your mind, not outside of you. So the expression that you get, Ken Rinpoche says that you use in Tibetan Buddhism group tradition all the time, it's the logical expression, sort of the summation of logic. What's logic for? Why is logic so important? This is the saying is, what is in your mind should be clear to you. What is in your mind should be clear to you. So again, everything you do, there should be reasons for it. You should know your intentions, know who you are, what you're doing at any time, right? Don't be confused. Don't be deluded. Don't be all messed up and not knowing. You have to be crystal clear about yourself and your own life. Who are you? What are you doing? What is everything? What does everything stand for in your life? What's the reason for everything in your life? What's the cause for everything in your life, right? Get clear. So once you see this, you will see that your mind is full of afflictions, and these are to be abandoned if we want to be happy and get to nirvana. So this is interesting, is that once you watch your mind, and let's say I want to get clear, well, once you look at your mind, you see that your mind isn't clear at all. It's like you want it to be like a clear, glass of water or something like this. But instead, it's muddy water when you look at your mind. And most of the mud in there, all these delusions and afflictions and confusions, they're not reasonable. They're not rational. They have no reason to be there. They're just all bad habits and confusion. So that's what we have to start cleaning out. That's like in Zen, the mucky mirror. We need the Windex with the paper towel there and to wipe it clean. So how do we do this? Buddha taught the second set of truths. In other words, the objects to be achieved in practice, i.e. the cessations of suffering and the path to practice cessations of suffering. In particular, the main thing, what the real Arya truth of the path is the wisdom realizing emptiness, which is the real nature of things. That things lack impossible existence, that non-relational existence is lacking to all things. Things are empty of that, which means that they are in a relationship to one another. Okay? So Buddha is the teacher of the method to liberate from suffering and the Sugata, because he's reached a state of ultimate happiness because he has achieved true cessations. Okay? These to benefit self and others through compassion, to benefit all beings. So again, he is the teacher of the method to liberate from suffering, and he's the Sagata, the one gone to bliss here, because he's reached a state of ultimate happiness because he's achieved the true cessations that come from true paths, which is the path that he followed. Okay, why is he doing this? To benefit all sentient beings. So because of this, by teaching this, his life being a teaching and teaching this to you, he is the protector because he knows how to benefit all beings by teaching them the exact knowledge and method to practice the paths of true cessations and realizations to become happy. Therefore, he protects you from suffering, right? He protects you from suffering. In other words, Buddha is refuge. Buddhism is about refuge. The teachings are giving you the final thing, the final protection, the real protection in life, the real refuge you're looking for, that real peace, that real rest that we all want in nirvana. That's the ultimate refuge, what we're getting. But the teachings themselves are a refuge, are a protection. Why? Because they're teaching you what suffering is and what happiness is, how to stop the suffering, how to promote the happiness. And this is done through your mind. And it's motivated by compassion as giving you a pragmatic therapy that will benefit you and all sentient beings. And when you reach that state, you will teach other beings the same way. In other words, they've lowered the ladder, you get down, then you're lowering another ladder to all sentient beings, right? You're helping everyone achieve that same state. So again, what is refuge? What is, like, when we talk about refuge, where we are refugees or internally displaced people, lost, confused, suffering, aimless, wandering beings in samsara, looking to find peace and happiness and protection, but never finding it because we're looking externally, but not internally, right? Transmigrers, it's the definition, it's kind of like a one name, a Tibetan way of calling sentient beings, of course, is transmigrant, or wandering, traveling beings, travelers. We're travelers. Why are we traveler? Always in the bardo, going around here, always sort of wandering the world, wanderers, wandering the waste, is because, again, we were looking for refuge, looking for that peace, looking for that happiness, looking for that escape from suffering. But again, we're looking for worldly refuges, which never in the big picture work. Most of all, like if you look at our addictions, let's say, where we're always just trying to bliss out and be happy because we feel so miserable, right? That's the addictive mentality that we have. But even in a positive way, like just like, let's say, lying out in the sun or, going out for a nice dinner with friends, that's all fine. But that's just a worldly refuge that runs out. That's not permanent. It's not a true refuge. So the real refuge we're talking about here for us traveling, wandering, nomadic beings, always looking for happiness, refugee beings, is the path itself, which it's interesting. The Buddha himself is the path. That's why we talk about in a lot of ways in the Buddha nature teachings from Maitreya, the Tathagata is the Dharma, like the real jewel, the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The most important one, let's say in LamRim, is the Dharma jewel, which is your own inner wisdom to realize emptiness. In the Buddha nature teachings, the real important jewel is the Buddha jewel. Buddha as an example, finding and seeing that your own Buddha nature is what you're working on, right? So it's the same thing here. We're seeing that, ironically, like the Buddha jewel here is the refuge that Buddha and the teachings are. So logic or pramana, as we examine all this with logic, we are searching for a correct understanding of the subject and correct cognition, which produces infallible knowledge, which means it will stay in our minds strongly and is difficult to lose. Okay, we take refuge with this logical certainty, and this itself is a great virtue. So we're studying all this, getting clear in our mind, doing all our teaching so we won't start to doubt them or sort of fall into confusion. We can, in other words, we can make this whole method a path, a way of living our lives. It's a life to be lived by following this. Okay, so why do we practice? Well, we're practicing for future lives, improving our own mind by increasing knowledge. Whether we have better life or worse depends on what we do in this life. Now, we have the power in our own hands at this moment to determine our future karmically. This depends on our mind and our actions. So we must gain a conclusive certainty about karma in past and future lives. Oh, then, which we talked about this before, right? I mean, this whole educational process is done over many lives. And it's even in the context of all over this life that we're walking this path. Again, Rinpoche says, only you can tell what your quality is, what level of your ability and practice we're dealing with, whether you are a good Dharma practitioner or not. In other words, this is a function of your wisdom. So the more you practice, the more logic you do, the more wisdom you do, the more you yourself, with your teachers, of course, but even yourself, it builds your own inner wisdom. So you can see your own progress, and you develop a very strong bullshit detector for yourself, not just for other people, where you start to see when you're bullshitting yourself. And that's the highest wisdom, is when you see when you yourself let yourself down with karma or with your vows. In other words, when I'm failing ethically, it's not that other people are calling me on it, which is great to do. That's why you have a teacher. But moreover, when you have a certain amount of wisdom, you yourself see when you're failing, when you're letting yourself down and letting others down. You know when you're being lazy, you know when you're lying, you know when you suck or whatever, you know when you're fooling yourself. And that's the process of waking up, becoming a Buddha, waking up. So to have a better life, study this and gain listening wisdom, then examine, check, and verify and discover. Get the wisdom arisen from contemplation, and then based on that, more and more we will get valid cognition, right? Or pramanas. So, this we talked about before, but I think it's important here where he talks about the past, proof of past and future lives. We recognize the power of the mind to produce mental results or experience. If this is the case, then our past lives have produced the one we are in now. And then this one, we're now, this very moment, will produce our future lives. It's like a long river crossing many different borders. Why is this important? Again, to show us we are on an educational process, a pedagogical journey, a path of waking up. At every moment, we're walking either towards nirvana or back into samsara. But the whole point is it's situating us on a path of personal growth. So this is what we talked about in the Wheel of Life, all the teachings, karma and emptiness. So once we see this, the question is, can suffering be stopped? Is our cessations possible? Yes, by this very definition. Nirvana and enlightenment are the antidote to our sufferings in samsara. They remove the opposing force of suffering, right? Like a therapy, just like food relieves hunger and light gets rid of the dark. So this wisdom is the antidote to ignorance, which is at the root of our suffering. So compassion, wisdom in our mind will grow daily with our practice. We'll naturally function in our mind and create a continuum that it starts to increase. This will then eventually turn into ultimate compassion, wisdom. So what we end up showing is that if the mind is causal, because we can show that mind produces mind, experiences produce experiences, your actions produce results, this situates you in a causal line, showing you've got past lives and you've got future lives, which means you can self-perfect. This is the interesting, your mind grows causally, but if that's the case, just like Baruch Spinoza, famous philosopher, Duns Scotus, was so that anything's possible because I can causally produce it. Right? Which means I can find true cessations. I can find true happiness. I can find true Buddhahood because I can practice it. I can produce it. I can create it through my own actions. I can follow the path. It's pedagogically not just possible, but necessary. So I can do this. It's a whole path. It will produce a result. It's not a symbolic result or kind of like a fictitious result. It's a real result. So finally, concluding, Dignaga's quote, homage to the Buddha, homage, I prostrate to the one who became perfectly correct, whose desire to benefit others, to the teacher, the Sugata, the protector. Okay, so how do we know that the Buddha is a totally correct being, that all this is true, that this path works, that I should be a Buddhist, that it's worth my time to go to a temple and or be at home meditating, studying all this stuff, that it will work, I will get the result, I will be just like Buddha one day, because he said I will. Number one, Buddha is a protector. The first Arya truth is correct from his experience. True sufferings are something that he teaches. Okay, the other three follow upon this. If we understand what true sufferings are, how they're produced from karma, in other words, true origins, we can understand true paths and true cessations. Okay, this shows he's the protector, protecting us from suffering and also showing us the refuge of true happiness. He is Sugata, gone to bliss. He has eliminated all bad qualities in self and realized all things. He knows all beings he's protecting. Question, how does he prove that this is about him going to bliss? Like that sort of, again, it's just almost like he's a protector. He's limited all bad qualities, but he knows all other beings because of his omniscience. But what is this of him going to bliss? Well, 3, he is the teacher of emptiness. He teaches all of this confirmed through his own experience, which happens to be correct, because he speaks and teaches Pramana. So it's confirmed as a result. Question, that's okay, so he's like a teacher for that. So he is the teacher. So we're leading the question again. How do we know that he went to bliss? How are we proving this together? Well, first of all, we're proving that he's a teacher. He's a teacher he's a protector. He's gone to bliss. He's a teacher. He is a teacher of emptiness. He has realized emptiness in his own practice, in his own life. And that's why he is teaching this from his own experience. He has followed the path and got true cessation, so got a true result. This truth is the pramana, is valid cognition. He is only speaking the truth. He's only telling the truth. The truth is the life he's lived, his whole path that he's realized, that he can teach you. That's how he's like a teacher. Now, again, how in the bigger picture, why is he teaching this? Why is he a teacher in a big sense is the final one. He helps all beings. He has great compassion, the primal cause of Buddhahood. Because of his compassion, he teaches emptiness. Because of this, he has removed all bad qualities and therefore has gone to bliss. So he is a protector. He is a refuge. Therefore, he is a true path. So you can see that that all sort of goes together, you know. Again, just him having followed the path, realizing emptiness, understanding what true refuge is in terms of karma and emptiness, and then most of all, seeing that he is the only reason he's doing all this is to benefit other beings because he has compassion. This is what's motivated him to do this, but also motivates him to teach other people on how to do this for themselves. He's gotten rid of his bad qualities, produced only good ones, therefore, this true happiness of nirvana is someone has gone to bliss. Nirvana is, again, extinguishing suffering, blowing out samsara of suffering, and again, gone to bliss, the bliss of nirvana, everlasting happiness, true happiness, because we've had true sufferings eliminated in our lives. great peace, great bliss of nirvana. So in the end, what's important here? This is a path of understanding your mind and understanding the real nature of what wisdom is. This whole path is a path of wisdom, and that's what Pramana means. When we really talk about what valid cognition is, it's in terms of the context of the teaching I just went over today. And where does this all start? It starts with Buddha, just like ourselves, having a good heart, practicing love and compassion in life. That's the fundamental cause that will get the whole thing started here. It's turning the key in the ignition, starting the machine of our enlightenment. It's compassion and love in your life that gets this whole thing started, where we can actually start to embark on the journey of the 4 Arya truths. And that itself will be self-confirming. In the end, you will see that all that matters is love and compassion. That's the whole path. That's the real meaning of Mahayana Buddhism. And that's, I guess, the great revelation of Buddhism. What's the real meaning of valid cognition is love and compassion. So that's what Ken Rinpoche titled his book, Like a Heart So Dearly Needed for Liberation. We need that good heart in our day-to-day life to liberate ourselves and ultimately to liberate all other sentient beings. Okay, in the end, that was a long class, but there's actually a lot of material. Sorry about that. So let's just take a moment to dedicate here. And again, may we, just a simple dedication, everything we do here, we dedicate for the enlightenment of all sentient beings, but may we have a good heart. May we at every moment of our day really have Tisha always, when he was teaching in Tibet, they always said his first greeting to everybody says, hi, how are you? How are you doing today? Do you have a good heart? How's your heart today? Do you have a good heart? So it's the same thing with our practice day to day, living the path. May we have a good heart of love and compassion that will bring us on sort of the path to enlightenment or realizing emptiness for the welfare of all. Okay, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming. And the next class will be the review and question and answer class, which I'll put a sort of an email on when that is. It'll be about a week from now. Okay, thank you.